days, fruit flies and allies. I am Barrett Laurie, and thank you so much for coming by my channel for today's live stream interview event with business author and self-publishing expert, Dr. Heidi Thorne. Before we get to the interview though, I am going to do a little bit of channel maintenance. If you are new here, this channel talks about 3 topics: books, butt stuff, and fun stuff. Books, we talk about reading and writing. Butt stuff, don't get it twisted, we're talking about my journey with chronic illness, specifically Crohn's disease. And the fun stuff is in the form of the Gay Agenda video every month and our Fantasy Fairy Book Club videos, which pop up about twice per month. Any of that sounds like fun to you, you're gonna need to click that subscribe button and ding the bell. The bell gives you notifications every time I upload new content to the channel, which is 2 times every single week. Also, if you're not already, head over to the socials. You're gonna find me at Barrett_Laurie at Twitter and Instagram. Go ahead and give me a follow, and I look forward to engaging with you on the platforms. I'm very excited to get a good bit of time with my guest, Dr. Heidi Thorne. So let's get on to the interview. Hi.
You hear me now? Just to make sure we're all good.
We're all here. We averted a little technical difficulty, but they couldn't stop us today.
They couldn't. No, nothing's going to stop us now. You know, and I'm not going to go into that routine.
That's right. Well, Dr. Heidi Thorne, thank you so much for coming to visit with me.
Yes.
I have been a fan of your channel for about 6 or 7 months now, since I started on the AuthorTube. I found your podcast, and we were talking beforehand. You were like every favorite professor I had in college, and kind of telling it like it was. And it kind of, you know, made me think, okay, I can do this, all of the marketing and all the scary things that authors are terrified of. Right. And then I thought, you know, okay, at some point, if I do these live streams, I'm going to have you on, because I've built this tribe of writers who, a lot of them are self-published, who could glean a lot from your knowledge. So we are going to jump right in. If you wouldn't mind, would you introduce yourself to everyone here?
Sure. My name is Dr. Heidi Thorne. I have a master's and doctorate in business, and also HR management for one of them. So
okay.
I didn't really get into any of the business stuff, and I am a self-published author. I concentrate on business, as you might expect, nonfiction, and I have experience also as an editor for a trade newspaper, and I have self-published since 2011. So I have almost a decade of experience in this self-publishing arena, and I've learned a lot, I've experimented a lot, and done a lot of research. So I certainly want to share what I've learned with other authors that are thinking about this path.
Definitely. I cannot wait. In a little bit, we're going to get into one of your books where I'm going to totally dive into your data, because I think the author survey is so fascinating. It gets to my weird data side of my brain, but I think it's useful for a lot of authors. So I can't wait to get into that. Before we do, I'm going to do a quick share so everybody can see where they can find you. Great. And know what they're looking for when they get there. So first things first, I'm going to start off with your website, which is kind of the hub of all things Heidi Thorne. So I'm going to turn it over to you as I do a quick scroll and show everybody so they know they're in the right place. You'll see your picture there, your about section, and then all of these goodies here. So what can they find from this front page?
Well, this is really the hub of where you can get everything from the podcast to some of my survey research, my social media, free email updates, the podcast, the blog, my Udemy courses, my books and audio books. So this is where you want to be on the front page. Everything is right there. So you can find it all right there on the first page.
Perfect. Then next, I am going to share your Amazon page. So if anybody wants to, and they should, read your books, which I'm going to give a tip to some folks out there. If you are Kindle Unlimited folks, a lot of these books are in Kindle Unlimited. So
all of them.
Are they all? Are they all? I didn't know.
All of them are in Kindle Unlimited. There might be 1 or 2 that aren't, but most of them are on Kindle Unlimited. So
Yeah. So
use your subscription.
totally get on there and use it and read. So this is what you're looking for there. Be sure to follow Heidi Thorne on Amazon. And then last but not least, since I discovered you on YouTube, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what your YouTube page looks like so they know how to get over there and subscribe and click the notifications. Do you do weekly or is it 2 times a week?
I do weekly because it kind of marries into everything. And I think that's a comfortable pace for a lot of people. You know, like you have kind of 2 different paths that you're on. So, you know, it makes sense to do it like twice a week. But for this, it's once a week is about as much as most of my folks can handle.
Okay. Well, all right. So are you ready? Are we ready to dig in? Okay. So we did the about section, which kind of gave a general about of who you are, what you're about, and your background. So real quick, one of the questions I had was, why did you choose to self-publish? So what took you that route?
Well, I guess you could say I'm kind of a control freak in that way, because I wanted to have control over the publishing process. Yeah. My first book, as well as almost all of my books, have been in concert with my business. So I couldn't really go the traditional publishing route because I was publishing to promote my business. So traditional publishing isn't interested in promoting my business. So, so I had to go with self-publishing. It just wouldn't have made sense. Now, if I went with a more generic type book that didn't really talk about, you know, things I do in my business, then you know, traditional might have been okay. But I really needed that control in order to use it as a business tool.
Sure. Now, you said your first book was published in 2011. So that's a decade. So you've been at this 10 years. So what is your biggest change you've noticed in that time?
Well, I would say the tools have become so much better. Like back in those early days, in fact, pre-2011, when I was just starting to think about this, CreateSpace really was kind of a separate company. Okay. And then they got absorbed by Amazon. And so there weren't a lot of options out there. And it was hard. It was really hard to self-publish. And in fact, that was my first book, but that wasn't the first time I self-published anything, because when I was teaching back in the early 90s, I tried to do self-publishing for, you know, the classes I was teaching, and it was hard. I mean, you know, we were doing things at like the Kinko's and FedEx and
oh wow, yeah.
You know, with the spiral bindings.
Oh yeah.
And if you wanted to do a hardcover, I remember I did a test run of a hardcover for something on business writing, and each copy was like 16, 18 bucks, you know, to do. I couldn't have charged. I mean, there's no way I could have charged anything for that and made any money on it. So it was just impossible. So the tools and the systems that we have in place now are just amazing. I mean, I'm just in awe of everything that has changed in the past 10 years. I mean, it's been amazing. So
well, and just, I mean, I would imagine just even the distribution channel of an ebook. I mean, just that is a game changer. You know?
I will tell you, you know, I really, you know, the ebooks didn't really come on board until Kindle didn't come out until 2007.
Okay.
So that was, if you look at that in the time frame, that was only 14 years ago.
Yeah, that's not that long ago.
And before that, ebook readers were horrible. I mean, I would go to the Borders because that's where we all hung out, right? You know,
and the nice couches, as we've discussed. I like
the couches and chairs were the best, and I'm sure the employees got those couches and chairs before we were able to, you know, get all the fixture sale. But the ebook readers that they would feature in the store were those kind of green screen. Remember those like personal assistants? It was kind of a gray green screen, and they were horrible to read, and they were super expensive, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and the books were just about as expensive.
Right.
And I thought, this ebook thing is going nowhere. You know? And then my husband got one because he had, you know, he likes the toys. And so he got a Kindle like not too long after it was first out. And then he got me one for my birthday. And that was a life-changing moment. I mean, everything after that was Kindle and eBooks for me. And
wow.
And I rarely buy print anymore. I mean, really, seriously.
Huh, cool. Okay, next question. I said before, I think I connected with you because I felt your teacher roots, but what would you say from your background turned you into a teacher, or probably more now in your business, a coach?
A coach? Well, actually, I love school. I mean, I loved it when I was a kid, and high school, not so much, but college was great, you know, and I loved learning and I loved reading. And so it really was just kind of a natural fit for me. It was something that I always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so it really helped me transition later on to teaching others about self-publishing and all things business and all of that. And so it was just because I like school. Yeah. So I loved it. And so I wish I could go back. I think when I officially retire, you know, I mean, I'm probably just going to go to school just because I want to.
Yeah, you have the time. So my next question, how about, where did the idea for the Heidi Thorne Show come from? Now, I'm just going to give a quick disclaimer. The Heidi Thorne Show is what introduced me to you. Right. And it's also a podcast. Yeah. I have listened to the podcast versions as well. It just depends on what I'm consuming today. Yeah. So kind of talk to me about where that idea came from. Like, where was your aha moment of, I should share what I know?
Right, exactly. Well, I have to kind of credit my husband for that again, because here I'm basically a text kind of person. You know, yeah. I can write blogs. I read tons of blogs. I read blogs every single day. So I was really into the writing of the text blogs. And I had heard, you know, audio is coming around, and my husband started his motorcycle podcast. And I'm like, dude, motorcycle podcast, that doesn't really make any sense. But I thought, well, I'll just give it a shot anyway. Yeah. And it really, and at that point, I called it, because I was working with business people who wanted to self-publish. Yeah. So I called it Books, Blogs, and Business.
Oh, I like that.
Which is great. But the thing is, it's such a narrow niche, and I have so much to share with all authors that I just, I renamed it. I shut it down for several months, and then I revamped it and then just called it the Heidi Thorne Show, because I thought, well, I'm going to be talking about a bunch of different things, and I don't want to narrow that focus so much. So it's not really an original name, but I decided to do the podcast because you know, I heard all of the news, you know, because I do read all the tech blogs and stuff, and how audio and voice technology is the next wave.
It is.
So I thought I can't get so far behind the curve on that. So I'm going to start now, even if it doesn't get a lot of traction. And the podcast is hard. It's harder to get traction on a podcast than it is on YouTube videos. And so I did a blog post about video and podcasts and video podcasts. And I said, well, this is an option. But I said, there's two different skill sets that you're talking about. Yeah. And so one of my loyal blog readers, she said, well, like, why don't you just put it on YouTube? You know?
Yeah, like,
so I started that in 2018. I started the video version of it, and basically they're exactly the same thing. The audio from the video is just on the podcast. So
interesting, cool. So how's you been on YouTube since about when? 2018?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, actually, I've been on YouTube since 2009.
Oh wow. Okay.
But and back then, again, everything was related to the business I owned. Yeah. And I talked a lot about promotional products, which I was a promotional products distributor, you know, like swag and printed.
Yeah.
I did that for like 17 years. So I had I had a lot of stuff to teach people about doing swag.
Well, and this was probably the trade shows then, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did. Oh, I helped a lot of people with their events and trade shows, and so many. I saw so many people making so many mistakes with that, and so that's why I started the videos and started to blog and started so it was just an outgrowth of trying to teach people to do things better. And so then once I transitioned to the self-publishing side, I just kept doing the same thing, only a different topic.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, we mentioned a little bit about this, but tell us about your Udemy offerings.
Okay, on Udemy, because I did some author coaching and editing and critiquing and all of that kind of stuff, and I was kind of winding down that operation, but I still wanted to be able to teach people things that we would have discussed in our coaching. So I put all of that stuff, I combined it all on Udemy. So right now I have 4 courses on Udemy. One's on public speaking and how to use that to build your business. But that's the only one that is non-self-publishing. Then there's the one how to do a nonfiction Kindle ebook, because nonfiction is my thing.
Right.
And then the other one is on how to sell your self-published book on Amazon, which surprisingly doesn't get much traction, because I think that's really interesting, because that's what everybody wants to do. They want to sell their books, but they're afraid of selling, so they don't really want to dig into that.
Yes.
The one course that is just going gangbusters is how to self-publish an audiobook.
Interesting. You know what? I bet it's because it's becoming so hot. In 2020, for traditional publishing, at least, because I do Publishers Weekly, audio blew it out of the water for people.
It's growing somewhere. I think I saw one of the stats, like, 10, 20, 25% per year. I mean, like it's exponential growth, so I didn't want to get out. Again, like with the podcast, I didn't want to lose out on that. So again, I have to credit my husband for this one. I said, because even a few years ago, like 2017, 16, it was kind of hard to do an audiobook. On CX, they were saying you have to have a professional narrator. We want this and we want that, and you have to have this. And I'm like, okay,
this is expensive.
This is right. And it has to be in the studio. And I said, I can't do that. I won't do this. This is insane. So one day we were talking, because my husband's a big Audible fan, and he said, "Yeah, I think you could do that." I said, "Oh, come on, please." I don't have. So I said, "Okay, fine, I'll try it." And I finally did. And I struggled through it all. With using Audacity, which is the audio editing software. It's free.
I've heard of it. Okay, I'm making a note.
Audacity.org.
Okay, folks, you just got a tip right there. First tip of the show.
It is free. It is free, and but you have to kind of know what you're doing, because it really is built by audio engineers for audio engineers.
Okay.
So that's why I put all of that stuff that I learned doing that, as well as all the other publishing aspects of audiobooks, like how to make your book audio friendly. Yeah. It's a real problem, especially for nonfiction people.
Oh, I bet it would be harder.
You have a lot of bullet points. There's tables and graphs, and some books are just not audiobook friendly.
Right. I think of finance. My second master's is finance. Almost all of the finance books I read would be very hard to do in audio.
There's
formulas and it's stuff.
But a lot of people don't know is that you can add a PDF resource to your audiobook that people can download.
Second tip, I didn't know that. So
see, now you know.
Okay.
Now you know.
So that's a hot class for you right now, is the audiobook. That's interesting. Yep.
It's the hottest thing out there. I just, and it's amazing to me. I'm like, wow, and then these people are pretty intrepid. I mean, because if you want to do it yourself, that's hard. Yeah. That's a lot. It's a lot of work, and the learning curve is steep. So kudos to all those people who want to jump into that pool.
Totally. Good for them. So the next question, burning to know, because first of all, I was impressed when I went to your Amazon. I was like, holy cow, there's a lot here, because we were trying to decide what I was going to read for today.
Exactly.
And you kind of guided me, which was helpful. But so how many books have you self-published in that 10-year time span?
I want to say, I've lost count. I think it's about 20, but they're short, narrow, focused topic, because I'm not going to write a textbook. I mean, you being in a master's MBA program, and I mean, you know what those books are like. They're about this thick, and it's just not useful. I mean, I don't need to reinvent that kind of stuff, but I know people are looking for answers, and so that's why I have those narrow little topics, so that people can get the answers they need in as quickly a time frame as possible.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you ready to hop into the book section?
Oh, absolutely. You're the showmaster here. Let's go.
Let's do it. All right. Wait, I'm trying to get my, there it is. Okay. So I am scrolling at the bottom, the name of the book for everybody, so they know what we're talking about as we go. So on January 30th, 2020, last January, you published Networking for Authors, How to Build Your Fan Base and Book Sales Through Networking. This I have all the feels about, because as we discussed, the one thing all of us authors hate is the sales bit. It's, I don't know what it is. It's like, it's like we can sit down and write it, and then it's like, oh wait, you want me to go sell it? So, okay, let's just kind of go through some of the topics you and I had said we were going to discuss. So number one, this is kind of pulled directly from the book. Why do both introverts and extroverts struggle to network as authors?
Well, the introverts, like most authors they're afraid to go out. They don't want to tell anybody about what they're doing. And then, they think they're going to be found in a sea of competition, and they're not. And so they really have to put themselves out there. Luckily today, introverts don't have to worry about that in-person networking as much, because they can do it on social media. So they have a barrier of safety these days, unlike it was years ago. But extroverts are just as challenged, because some of them can turn into sales, how do I want to call them? I mean, they're just overly aggressive with their sales.
This might be me. I think I would fall into that, because I am that loud person. So help me. What do I need to be doing?
It's like, it's buy my book, buy my book, buy my book.
Then I have a book.
Right, exactly. And then they start burning bridges with their relationships, with their network, because nobody wants to hear that all the time.
Right.
So they both struggle, both ends of the spectrum struggle with that. And so I really suggest that, people you don't even have to talk about your book. You just have to talk about, I'm an author and here's what I write. Is this, do you read this kind of stuff? And to get that focus off of you, the author, and on your reader. That's the key to it when you're talking to someone, especially in person.
Yeah. So what would you say, actually, before we do that, let's touch on the different types of networking groups that you would tell clients are great for authors.
I would say definitely do not go to something called a leads group or chambers of commerce. Now, it's not that they're bad groups. They're wonderful. No. I was the president of a BNI leads group chapter for a couple of years. So it's not that I don't believe in them or dislike them. And I've been in chambers, and they're lovely, wonderful people. But the thing is, those people are going, the people that attend those events are looking to make business connections, and they definitely need to have referrals. And in the leads groups, you have to bring referrals to the group,
Okay.
So if there's a real estate person in your group, you're charged with bringing leads to a real estate person. Well, most authors, they might have a friend or two, but that might be interested, but it's really hard. It's hard enough for people who are dyed-in-the-wool business people to get leads and stuff for other people. So those are not a really good fit for authors. Although they may have events once in a while for the community, go for those. But those are probably not your key ones. Other ones might include Meetup. But then today, because 2020, the Meetup is not as hot a place to network as it used to be. Although I've had some wonderful meetup groups and I'm still parts of them, but it's not a good fit for a lot of authors, or at least not right now, not until things kind of get back to normal. And you're really not going there to sell your book. Again, you're not going to be that part of, buy my book all the time. You're going there to get a read on the type of people that read your books. So if you're writing, fantasy or whatever, you probably want to veer towards groups who read fantasy type of stuff, or book club type groups.
Yeah.
And then speaking of book clubs, that's kind of well, again, because 2020, a lot of them have gone virtual. Yes. And when you go to a book club, you are expected to participate, so if you're just going there just to say, buy my book, and you're not going to read anybody else's book or anything like that,
good luck.
Good luck. Yeah. So some of those groups are really, really difficult. And I think the best networking groups that authors can get in now are like Facebook groups.
Yes. I'm telling you, Facebook, their advertising, the thing you can put on your webpage to track who's come from Facebook to your webpage and back is incredible, the data they collect.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And so I think Facebook groups are probably one of the key. I mean, I get so much insight because I want to make sure that I am providing information that authors need. So for me, a couple of these groups, I have a Facebook group too.
I'll have to join it.
Self-published author network. So yes, so I have my own group, but I'm in some larger groups of authors, and a lot of them are first-time authors, so they have a lot of great questions, and then that helps me figure out, okay, how can I be of service to these people? Yeah. So and the same thing, whether it's author groups or moms or people who cook or whatever hobby or interest or whatever they have, join those groups. And you don't have to be, like annoying.
You want to spam.
Self-promotion thing. No. You're not going to say, hi, I'm joining the group. Here's my book.
Right. Right.
No, no, that is not going to work for you. So just be a member that shares and cares in these groups. And that, to me, I think Facebook groups are where it's at in terms of, for authors especially.
I think so too. And something you said, and you talk about definitely in your podcast. Oh, that's okay.
It's,
take a breath. I'm trying to attack the castle, and they've got it. It's under control. So here's, before we get into the thing from the book that I loved the idea for, I wanted to touch on something you said. For those of you going into Facebook groups, something that we learn in business school that I think applies to all authors is the value proposition. And it's when you go into those groups, look for opportunities to not be salesy. I mean, you can provide value, and that can be your avenue to then say, oh, that's really interesting. You giving me a tip on that editor. How do you know that? And that's a great opportunity if you say, well, I hired an editor when I did my book, and they helped me with X, Y, Z. And then that opens a conversation for, oh, you wrote a book, or,
Right.
So,
and a lot of them, a lot of the groups, because they're, people ask questions like, okay, I'm stuck, I need help, that type of thing. And then you can say, okay, well, here's my experience. That's one thing you can share. And if you do have something to offer them, because in like some of the author groups, a lot of them are looking for referrals for designers or
cover designers, sure,
editors, that sort of thing. And then, a lot of people share, and then we do have some professionals of that ilk in the group. And then they say, well, I'd love to bid on your stuff. And, here's my website, check it out. If you're interested, let me know. But it's not, you don't spam them, you don't harass them, you don't do anything, but you just say, well, here I am. This is what I do. If I can help you, please let me know.
Well, and the thing behind networking that I would also say that used to scare the heck out of me, and I'm an extrovert, is to take the mystery out of it, is all you're doing is building a connection.
Right.
So,
that's it.
That's it. That's the goal. That's all you're going into it with. There's nothing more than to think through than I want to build a connection with this person. What's the best way to facilitate?
That's it. That is it. And if you've been successful. Because I think a lot of people say, well, if I haven't made a sale, I'm not successful. Well, it's not the case.
I was gonna say, my husband,
it's a long game. So, you know, you need to you build those connections and building your author platform.
So in this book, you talk about something I loved the idea for and had never heard it before, and it's called the author business card. So talk about that, because I think that's a great idea. It's something small that you can keep on you.
Right. I think it's just like anything. You know, you want to be able to have something to leave behind. Your author business card would include your name, what type of books you write, your website. And if you don't want to send them to the website, but you want to send them to Amazon, then send them to your Amazon author page, which you can get for free on Author Central. I'm so surprised. I'm just shocked that
I haven't signed up. I don't know any of the Author Central stuff. So like, so anybody can set one up.
Right. If you're an author and you have a book that's for sale on Amazon, you can get Author Central. So that's it. I mean, or put that, or your website, either one. And then if you want to include a little tagline about like my latest book is, fine, but then you have to keep updating it if you have other books. But a lot of people have, you know, they do one book and then they'll do another one a couple of years later. By that time, your business cards will be done, and then you can redo.
Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. So
but I think it's great to do it.
Here is another question for you. And this one I've seen in my author group on Twitter, where a friend did a self-published book and hired an influencer, a book influencer. Okay. So I know, since I took a half-hour crying phone call at the $1,800 this particular person spent on that, that resulted in maybe 3 sales. Go.
Well, you know, the influencer thing is one of those hot marketing buzzwords. And we're all influencers in a way. I'm an influencer. You're an influencer. Right. But the kind of Kardashian family influencer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to work for authors. Now, I've heard suggested from, you know, some of these marketing gurus that you should go through like the hashtag for whatever you talk about, and then you should reach out to each of those people that has so many followers and see if they want to do a deal with you by sending them their book. And the time involved in that is insane.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I can't even. They said, well, if you have no money, then that's what you got to do. Well, okay, great. And then there are sites. Now, this might be a little bit easier for some people who do want to jump into this influencer marketing thing. Is I think it's called influencer.co, if I remember correctly. But there are other sites like that where the influencers will post a profile and they say, I am looking for deals of this. Here's how much I charge. So you can say, okay, this person is too expensive for me. I'm not even going to
look.
Right, exactly. And then I'm just going to hire them for this.
Yep.
So if you're really hot into the influencer thing, but to me, the influencers that you need to hire are the ones that you actually have a genuine connection with. You know, just a random person. I don't have any connection to you. And the one thing that gets authors, or even other marketers too, they think that their influencers that they hire are going to be their fans, and that's not true. They're just
the business relationship,
right? They have a transactional relationship. So when your gig is done with them, they're done with you. So you haven't really built anything. You've just bought an ad, essentially.
Yeah.
So I am not. I believe that there are people who influence, and I think we should use our influence and help others by sharing our influence. But the whole influencer game is a big, expensive game too. So I don't really recommend it for authors unless they really have a lot of money.
Or money to burn. So our last question from this book, I wanted you to touch on, because I loved this last chapter. But the last chapter is all about Who do authors often ignore when networking?
Other authors.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
You know, this is just amazing to me because authors are rabid readers.
Totally.
And you know, it was funny, like on your show with Aphrodite, you know, you had people commenting, "Oh, I can't wait to read your book."
Right.
You know, and these were people. Let's face it, people aren't coming on your show just randomly.
Right.
They're coming on your show because they're authors or author tubers. You know, they're people who are interested in books. Right. So that's why, you know, I think we ignore other authors. And in fact, I regularly buy other self-published books and I review them and share them. I mean, I don't see why not, you know? So don't ignore other authors because they can be your greatest allies as well as, you know, a shoulder to cry on.
Anybody out there watching this who's cried on my shoulder, you know that. So let's talk about the next book that I read for today, with Self-Publishing to Make Money, What You Need to Know. And this is what everyone needs to know. This was published February 20th of 2019. So, and my take from this book, and I left a review, which I wanted to save the why should everyone review a self-published author's book until this book. But so my review of this book is it should be a must read for any of my self-published author friends. 2 reasons why. 1, you can literally read it in an hour. It's not going to take you that long. And there were multiple chapters, which you and I talked about before we got on, that reminded me of those MBA classes when you're talking about COGS and you're talking about things that we learned in business school that authors should know and think about. So with that in mind, let me dig into our discussion topics from this title of yours. So talk about the definition of making money in publishing and how that's individual.
Okay, so if you say, oh, I want to make money in publishing, if you sold 1 book or made $1, guess what? You've made money in self-publishing, technically. But what people don't understand is, like, making money is very dependent on how you feel making money is. Now, for some people and some authors that I run across, they think making $5,000 a month is making money. And for other people, it's making $100 a year. Right. So when you say making money, I just ask authors, how much? Yeah. How much are you expecting per month, per year? And what are you going to do to make that happen? Because that can be an expensive venture, depending on what level you are going for.
Right. As we also talked about beforehand, which we'll circle back to a question that I think touches on that. So how much when we say how much self-published authors actually make, I want to discuss your survey here. Right. Because, and just a quick nerd out real fast. So for both my MBA and then when I was working on my master's in science and finance and then getting ready to do PhD, we have to do these surveys, which I'm sure is where you got into this. But we do these surveys where we ask a question, we send it out for whatever reason, and you pull back data. And you take that data and extrapolate from it to create a narrative. So talk to us a little bit about your surveys and what they've found specifically with making money in self-publishing.
Right. Now, I realized my self-publishing was in conjunction with my business ventures. So for me, it was just another piece of the puzzle. So to me, you know, it wasn't a life or death. I'm going to quit my job in 3 years or anything like that. But I noticed it was really difficult to make money. And I saw other authors struggling with this. And I thought, well, is it just us? You know, is it just that we don't have the secret formula? You know, is this just our particular group here in the Chicago area that we're having difficulty with this, or is it just everywhere? So in 2016, I launched the Thorne Self-Publishing Survey, and I interviewed or did a survey. It was through SurveyMonkey so that they keep it anonymous and all of that. And we had about 60 to 70 authors, I think, that actually participated with money, information and things like that. And I found that 73% of them made less than $1,000 a year.
Wow.
Self-publishing.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, that kind of matches everything that I've talked with my friends and some of my own data.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to repeat it, which is a much bigger group. And then I had about 160 some authors in 2018 participate. And in 2016, a lot of them were my business authors. So you would think that they would have much more ability to make money from their books, right?
Sure.
So in 2018, I had almost the identical result with a larger group and a larger group of fiction authors in
now, that surprised me when I was reading the book. That surprised me.
Stunned.
Okay.
I mean, it was like 0.4% difference.
Right. Tiny.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, when they say, oh, well, what are my chances of making money? Again, well, it depends. And you can expect the majority are going to make less than $1,000 a year. And about 30, I'd have to look at the exact numbers, but about 35% made less than $100 a year. So, it's self-publishing is a tough road.
Yeah.
And it's not because you're bad. It's not because your books are bad.
Yeah.
Your books may be stellar.
Yeah.
It's just that the competition for self-published books is growing rapidly, and it is not going to stop.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember, like in 2017, the ISBN numbers for self-published books, which are for print mainly, but there are some ebooks in there. It was the first time it hit 1 million.
Yeah.
There was 1 million new ISBN numbered books in 2017, but that's just 2017. The old books from eons ago don't go away.
Right.
Don't go away. So the number of books, and I've heard like just astronomical statistics, like I don't know how many Kindle books are published every so many minutes. I mean, the market is so competitive that if you make any money, you're probably doing really well. So I think we have to be very honest with ourselves. And why are you doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
it's not that you shouldn't, but it's like are you ready for this? And does it mean enough to you to do this?
To sustain it. And I think the thing I would throw out there, one of my favorite professors early on in school said to me, don't go into business to make money. Go into business to improve someone's life or make their life better. And the money will come. And then he would always say, and by the way, it may not come for 5 to 7 years. So like
easily.
Right. So, and I am now thinking of that through the publishing lens of it is a business. So I think we as writers forget that sometimes, that this is a business. And the writing part is the fun part of the business. The rest of it is a business. So anyway, I loved that data for me it took me to all the geeky places where I thought.
I thought, well, maybe it's just, and I ran through all kinds of like, statistical filters and all of that. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter gender, age,
not just
none of that. I mean, it didn't really matter what type of author you were. We were seeing the same results across the board.
Wow. Well, and I should say, traditional publishing, because your book mentions it, and I double checked it with I have 2 friends that are agents. We were talking about this off, but I had them check with their book scan info, and for their clients, and each of them have clients who have big 5 contracts. They were saying similar to the number you float in your book, which is, do you want me to tell it? And just
Go for it.
$3,000 to $4,000.
Yeah.
Ta-da. So
I have a good story about that. So I went to an event where they were going to have a speaker who had gotten a great, traditional publishing contract with a good publisher. And he said, I'm not going to sell my books at the back of the room, which is very common for speakers and business speakers. And he said, I'm not going to do that because he said, I would have to pay so much money to get I would have to pay retail to get those books here. And he said, and then I don't make many royalties off of it, but you can order them on Amazon. And so he said, well, did anybody buy the book? And so this one gal, she throws the books in the air and he goes, oh, well, thank you. I just made 63 cents. And so, and she said, oh, well, this is the one I got from the library. I thought, I thought he was going to die. I'm like, oh, you poor thing.
Well, my friends that are agents threw this statistic out there, and I believe it to be true, that 80% of folks in traditional publishing will never earn out their contract. It is 20% of the people that do traditional publishing contracts that actually earn out, which means you actually see royalties. Right. So 20% of the writers you're seeing in bookstores are supporting the other 80%.
Yep.
So none of those numbers are great. It doesn't matter which way you're going, but that's what we're here. We're here to crush your dreams today.
Right. My one friend who's an editor, and she does work with people who do traditional publishing, and she goes, I'm just a buzzkill.
I mean, yeah. When I did that tag and tagged you in it, it's the harsh truth. You give the harsh truth. That's what it's there for.
Yeah,
so why is it so hard to sell books?
Well, again, the competition issue. We have, and if you publish a book on Amazon, and even if you have all the keywords right and you do the book description right and all that kind of stuff, it's like being on Google. Because even if the person types in, okay, I'm looking for books on XYZ topic, yours is going to be on page 25, not page 1 of search results, because also Amazon is an advertising platform. And a lot of people don't realize that. They want to equate it with a bookstore or a retail store, and it's not. It's an advertising tech platform. Yeah. Similar to Google. And so as an advertising platform, they sell ads, which we can do as authors. And I have continuous running ads on Amazon. But when you run ads, it's a bid, just like for Google, ads.
Okay.
So those with a lot of money, and guess what? They're going to get at the top.
Not the list.
Yeah. Also, Amazon has added advertising for non-books and non-products on their site. For example, if you go to Amazon now, you'll probably see ads for home loans, insurance, things that are vehicles.
Yeah.
I'm sure Amazon could get into that one day, but
don't count them out. Yeah.
Right. So they're targeting the big advertisers because they have to. That's their business model.
Yeah.
So our stuff is not going to be front and center.
Yeah.
And so really, I tell people that if you're getting your book on Amazon and you're hoping that it's going to be found on Amazon, you've already lost. Because when people go to Amazon, they should be going to Amazon to just buy your book because they saw you someplace else.
You're driving them directly to your author.
Driving them directly to your product page or your author page or whatever you have on Amazon. But to expect to be found on Amazon?
Unlikely.
Yeah, unlikely.
This dovetails beautifully into my next question. And this was another section of this book. And again, why I tell people, especially if you have Kindle Unlimited, like, what are you doing with your life? Check it out. It's the power of your life. But the best seller games that authors shouldn't play. So why don't you just give us the rundown about this concept of the bestseller games that we should not play and will not win?
Okay. So I have a number of author friends who definitely want the bestseller moniker. So what they do is they do a free Kindle ebook promotion, which you can do with your Kindle ebook if you register it in, or that title, in KDP Select. Now that requires exclusivity to sell only on Amazon, but a lot of people do that at least for their initial run of their book launch. And so they do this free ebook giveaway. And then they send all this traffic there to get the free ebook. And they end up in the top 100 free for a narrow niche topic that they discuss.
Yeah.
And then they can say, I was the top one. I was the bestseller. And they take screenshots to say that they were a bestseller.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Amazon's algorithm is updating the sales rank hourly.
That blew my mind. I did not know that.
Hourly. So every hour, you may be the bestseller this hour, and by the next hour, you'll be off the list completely. You won't be on the top 100.
Yeah.
So I've played with, I tried it just to see what these people were doing. And I got up to number 2, I think, in a couple of my categories.
Yeah.
But really, and then
or something? Is there like a
no?
Oh, so
Amazon won't do that. In fact, they had a real problem with that for a while, where these authors were saying, "Oh, I'm the bestseller," even though it was maybe for an hour in their narrow niche, and then they'd put a bestseller like image on their book cover art.
Oh.
And Amazon
basically shut that down because of copyright, right?
No, basically because they said, we don't give out those.
Yeah.
So you cease and desist.
Right.
So it's just stupid. And here's the other thing: when you tell somebody you're a bestseller, and then they go to your book profile and you're not in the top 100 or the top 1 or whatever, and then your book number 66,780 whatever, they're like, how can that be a bestseller? So then they're going to know you're a liar or you played some games.
So what is your advice to somebody who wants to figure out how they can improve their chances with Amazon? What would you say to someone if you were trying to coach them?
Don't do anything on Amazon. I mean, I would tell them basically you have to build your author platform off Amazon, and that would be on things like social media. It would be on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, although LinkedIn I haven't had a whole lot of success with.
Really, even for your niche? That surprises me because
it doesn't drive anything for me. What's interesting is that I watch all that, stats nerd, so I watch all that stuff. And the interesting thing is that Facebook and Instagram not so much, because Instagram is difficult. You have a tribe of friends there. Mm-hmm. But Instagram does not allow outbound links unless you pay for ads and things like that. So it's really difficult to gain any traction, sales, and watch that going through Instagram. So yes, my analytics prove that. But Pinterest, I put all my, I put my blogs on Pinterest. It gets like all kinds of traction over there. And I am not on Pinterest, and I don't really understand that. So again, it's, and you just have
your
to
advice is get that fan base going somewhere
else.
Drive the traffic.
Else. And it probably won't be your Facebook page. It'll probably be like your your Facebook page is where you have to do that, because if you're trying to do that from your personal profile on Facebook, they will shut your profile down.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah. I mean, you cannot be selling your book or doing any like promotional stuff through your private profile.
Interesting.
That's why they tell you that you have to sign up for a
page. Interesting. Okay, I just did a Facebook page and it's been
Yeah,
to get it up and going. So if anybody out there hasn't followed, go follow it.
It used to have the Facebook pages and stuff you would post there used to have a lot of organic reach, and now not so much, because again, they're an ad platform, and so
yeah. Okay, well, let's switch over. We're going to go to the third book I read for this, and that is Understanding Your Creativity. So let's dig in. I have lots of topics on this one. So first of all, how do you define creativity?
I don't think we have the right definition of creativity in our society. I think when we hear creativity, we think the arts, we think writing, we think music, we think dancing, painting, all of those kinds of things. But creativity is inherent in human beings. Yeah. And so I think that creativity is the ability to create, the ability to think in innovative ways. And that doesn't mean it has to be one of the arts. I think scientists and moms are super creative people.
Yeah, totally. My mom was.
Oh, exactly. I mean, because they're creatively or thinking of innovative solutions to situations and innovative ways to convey information or messaging or stories. I think I would replace creativity with innovation.
Yeah.
How you think innovatively about your world. And so I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is, they try and compare themselves to the Picassos or the J.K. Rowlings or the Stephen Kings or, all of these people that are in the arts, and everybody's creative.
Yeah. Well, no, I loved in this book particular, you talk about, I'm never going to write fiction, but right. You said, but you are a writer, and we kind of talked about, and we haven't talked about it here live, but kind of give a real quick about what gave you the aha kind of moment of, oh, other people think I can write, because I think that story is kind of fun. So
it is pretty funny because I never really wanted to be a writer because I just didn't think I had it in me. I saw all those people, again, looking at the arts, all the people who could write so well and write fiction. And I thought, I could never plot things. I could never come up with characters. And I thought, oh, this is not for me at all. So I went to school, of course, business school, and I got into sales. And I was working for a trade show company, and their sales letters were pretty dry, pretty straightforward. And if you know anything about the trade show business, it's really peak and valley. Yes. There's a lot of peak activity around showtime, but then afterwards, it just goes to nothing. And I thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. So these sales letters, because I wouldn't even read them. So I would, write funny stories or poetry or just jokes. Just something funny to grab the people's attention. And so that got me a reputation for being able to write innovatively, not creative.
Good copy.
Right, good copy. So I did move into marketing from sales as a PR and marketing copywriter. So then that's all I did all day was just, come up with brochures and write press releases and all of that kind of stuff. And that led to a career as a trade newspaper editor where I was writing articles all the time and editing articles all the time. And I did that for like 15 years. So I was an accidental writer.
The through line of your story, if I were trying to map it for you, would just be openness to whatever the next opportunity is, right? So you were constantly open to, oh yeah, you know what? I am going to try that. And I am going to, I think is unique. And I also think a lot of writers have that. You have to, in order to sit down and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a book. Like that's just,
And I didn't do it. I didn't write a book with the intent of like, oh, I'm going to write a book. You know, it was just something to. I had a good friend who did it in concert with his consulting business, and you know, and for him too, it was weird because he's a physicist, you know, and then he was doing it for some other consulting he was doing, and I'm like, okay, you know what, I can do it, and so and that's still the book that sells now 10 years later.
Wow. Well, I'm going to throw in 2 more quick things from this topic section, and then, guys, we'll get to the rapid fire because I'm bleeding into questions from live chat time. So real quick, and I'm going to put these 2 together, the chaos chapter. I'm just going to mention it. I want people to read it.
Yes.
Because, first of all, I can relate to that. I went to I was working in politics at the time, but we were at the Republican National Convention many moons ago, and there was an event, a networking event with like important elected officials.
Oh, sure.
At a facility like you're describing. I called it a Dave and Buster's on like acid trip.
Right.
It was just whistles and buzzing and loud, and I couldn't do it. So you were talking about the workspace.
Mm-hmm.
And so we won't get into it. I want people to read that chapter and think about that story and put it into your mind, because the bell that rings for me is, you know, when my husband is home, which he's been a lot in 2020, I get nothing done. It doesn't matter how big our space is or how quiet I can, like, I have to have my zone.
I do. I do too.
Folks, read the book and check out the chaos section. The part I wanted to get your feedback on before we move on quickly is the why authors should never play the comparison game in self-publishing.
Oh, never, never, because you have a unique voice, and you can't, and the worst comparison that people do as authors is they compare themselves to themselves. You know, they're trying to be that perfection, what they have set up as a person or artist of perfection. And so they're always berating themselves into oblivion. You know, they just don't, they are so worried about being better than they were last week or last year or whatever. And then they compare themselves to the J.K. Rowlings or the Stephen Kings of the world and see that, you know, oh, well, if I'm not that successful, I'm a failure. You know, it's not an either or. This is what you are, who you are. Don't compare yourself to other authors, and especially don't compare yourself to an unrealistic standard of perfection.
I think that is well said. So those are the 3 books I read for this interview. I have links to each of the 3 down in the description below, as well as Heidi's author page on Amazon. Be sure and go check those out for yourselves. Before we get into author questions, are you ready for a bit of rapid fire?
Okay, here we go.
Okay. What would you say is your strength?
My strength is my ability to think analytically.
What is your weakness?
My weakness, impatience.
What drives you?
What drives me? Experimentation.
What brings you hope?
Pardon me?
What brings you hope?
What brings me hope? I'm not a terribly hopeful person. I think so realistically that I don't really hope. I think of possibilities. What are options?
What would you say is the one thing you'll never try?
Probably fiction writing.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take it.
That or skydiving, one of the 2.
Okay, I'm good with neither of those. I understand. What would you say is something people can't tell by looking at you?
Can't tell by looking at me.
This used to be a question I asked on dates for anyone watching this.
Oh,
I would say to a date, tell me 3 things I can't tell by looking at you.
Then I am analytical. You know, I think a lot of people see that I'm, you know, like energetic and trying to be kind and caring, and they don't see that really I'm Mr. Spock. So, okay.
Yeah. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is being bored.
What's the definition of success?
The definition of success is that you are happy and helpful.
What do you hope to achieve?
Hope to achieve depends on
anything. Anything.
Anything. What do I hope to achieve? I hope to achieve all of my experiments, and they don't have to be successful, but I want to keep trying.
Good. I always say I learn from the failures, usually not the wins.
Right.
What would you say is something that you wouldn't have thought you'd try?
Oh, okay. Well, I do have, my next book is something that I thought I would never try. So, but it's still.
Oh, it's
in the works.
Still percolating.
Still percolating. I'm waiting for the proof.
I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
I know. I read your book. And I don't hold it against you.
Okay.
So if you were having one last meal, what would it be?
Donuts and pizza.
Oh, I want to eat at your house. Okay. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Where would I go? The UK. And why? Because the history of it is phenomenal.
If you could choose a place to be home other than Chicago, where would it be?
Ooh. It would probably be in, like something in the Northeast or Canada, that kind of cool.
You love that cold climate.
Oh, love cold climates.
Okay, just two more and then you're free.
Okay.
What is something that you wish people knew about you?
Oh, wish people knew about me. Wow. Wish people knew about me. That I am vulnerable too, because a lot of people, think that, you've got it all together and all that kind of stuff, but that, it's just as hard for me as it is for everyone else.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. What would you say to your younger self if you were giving them advice that you only could know now?
Go to law school.
You would have been a great lawyer.
I seriously, I made such a mistake there, but it was just, oh well.
Timing. I had about 20 more, but I'm going to break away from them because you had questions in comments, and I had 35 questions from people sent to me.
Wow.
Who could not be with us today. I'm going to real quick run through our hellos to everybody.
Okay.
So Super Villanova's here, Secretary of Sound. Aphrodite Lee is here for you. Super Villanova has been cracking me up in this chat, by the way. Every time I scooch over. Mr. Vlandis is here. His channel is amazing. He makes these incredible book covers that are so fascinating. I love them. The novel Nana, and she's asked you several questions, so I'm getting to them, Nana. Bear with me. I'm doing that thing my husband hates where he's like, you should have had me run the tech. Okay, here is your first question. So, question, if you can only afford one type of marketing, putting their eggs all in one basket, which would you say would make the most sense and sense? Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Very cute.
For the buck.
I would say put it in social media. I would say, and build your author tribe one person at a time, because some of these other things, and even like Amazon advertising, which I have done since 2016. So I have like a horizon to watch it, and it's not doing as well as it did back in the early days. So
really? Okay.
Really, I mean, yeah, not good at all. So I still do it because I still want to have a presence, but it's not doing as well. So I would say do it on social media, and just do it one person at a time. Get involved in Facebook groups. I think those are probably the best
place. Cool. Nana's next question. What's the most beneficial of the two, marketing or advertising? Can you explain the value and pros and cons of each?
Well, advertising is a part of marketing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think they're different, but one is a subset of the other. Marketing in general is more strategic. And it's looking at, well, what markets do I want to address or serve?
Yeah.
And then advertising is the implementation phase. So you can't really say that one is better than the other. One's the subset of the other.
Interesting. I like that. Here's something interesting that Mr. Vlandis said. I spent $300 on Facebook marketing and only got 1 sale. What is your reaction when authors say stuff like that?
Well, I'll specifically talk about Facebook advertising. I think Facebook advertising is good. I have found it a great tool for when I was doing my survey research.
Yeah, I bet.
But for books, it's horrible. I mean, I've never been able to do it successfully with Facebook ads. Okay. And so I think I would use Facebook advertising for branding purposes and not for sales purposes. Okay. And for those that are doing Facebook ads for books, the problem is that you can't put a Facebook pixel on Amazon to track those sales that maybe you're directing to Amazon, because Amazon's not going to let you put a Facebook pixel for the advertising tracking on there. So you're guessing. Yeah. So that's why it's harder. And I would say if you're doing the book thing, it's probably better to do Amazon ads than Facebook ads. So, but use Facebook ads for branding.
Okay, that's a great tip. Tia M. Grubb says, I find influencers aren't worth what it costs to mail a print book, which is what most want. Mm-hmm. That is interesting.
It is interesting. And I know Tia because we've been connected for quite a while. And she's an amazing horror author. And go follow her stuff too. I mean,
yes, I will.
And she's done her own audiobooks and everything too. So we've been connected for quite a while, but she's right. It's really difficult to monitor those influencers and what you're actually getting. And the print book thing, I would only do eBooks. And when I do, I don't do street teams or book launch teams or any of that kind of stuff. But if there's a specific person that I want to read my book and review it, I will gift it to them through Kindle.
Okay.
Because that it's a little more protected, because if you just send a PDF of your,
it can end up anywhere.
It can end up anywhere.
Yeah.
It can be all over social media. They can email it to their entire email list, and then all of those sales are gone. So I do not do the PDF copy to send it out to street teams or anything like that. I just cannot get on board with that strategy at all. And okay, I could go on a full rant on all that. So let's go to the next question.
Okay. I'm kind of scrolling through what people have said in the chat, just kind of catching up. So Aphrodite said, I went into my first book launch with the main goal of getting read. I didn't imagine that I would make a dime. Okay. And I think that's a great, I was lucky, not even sure what I did right. And I think that is a common refrain from a lot of my friends in the club. They kind of go, I'm not quite sure how that happened, but there it is. They're talking about the Drinkin' Live over on Kent Sean's channel tomorrow, which is a lot of fun. They get together and do a write-in while having a few cocktails. Okay. So I'm a teetotaler, so I'm boring on that front. I don't like the algorithm. I think they're talking about Amazon. Okay, here we go. We're getting caught up. People are telling where they want to go. Yes, okay. Just Eva's here. I haven't seen her yet with my dinner. I'm feeding my face and loving this chat. Way to go. Loving that. Better to buy $300 worth of your books and give them away. I gave away so many of my books and it made me happy to know they went to readers. Plus those readers are the best promoters. I bet that's true. You get readers from other readers. I bet that's true. I feel that would have been a better choice. So they're kind of discussing that stuff. So guys, I'm going to ask a few questions that were emailed to me because I thought they were wonderful questions. I just have to get my notes in order. Okay, so if you were telling a author who's working on a series, if they were coming to you and asking you how best to get their advertising game together, their marketing plan, would you tell them to put some advertising dollars in on book one? or use book one as a loss leader and advertise on a maybe second or third book in the series once the others were released?
Honestly, I think I would do the advertising in the first book. And the only reason being is that you may find that that has no traction. That first book has no traction. But usually authors have this whole series in their head, and that's okay, because you should have some sort of plan. But what happens is they tend to not want to move forward. They're like, okay, I have to do the second book, I have to do the third book. They want to rapid release them, you know, like, okay, but you don't know if that first book is going to get any traction. So if, let's say it doesn't go over very well, then you might have spent 1 year, 2 years, 3 years writing this entire series that nobody wants.
Yeah.
And so I think I would do more to do the first book, really try and get the traction going with the first book, and then decide whether those other series are justified. But I understand there are people who want to just get their series out because they have it in their head and their heart, and that's okay. That's okay. But just set your expectations correctly. You know, don't expect because you have a series of 6 books that the money's just going to come in because you have 6 books.
Yeah.
So
Eva made me laugh. She said, I feel called out right now.
I'm sorry, Eva.
No, that's funny. Okay, so next question. I love this one for self-publishing for sure, because I think it's a big misconception. And the question is about, why is distribution so hard for print books in self-publishing?
Because they're not going to be in bookstores. The chances of any book, and one of my editor friends, she covered a stat that even a small percentage, like 1-2% of all traditionally published books too, end up in bookstores.
Yeah.
So why do you think your self-published book, if the traditional publishers' books, which have so much money and professional help behind them, and sales
entire departments to go into bookstores and sell those. Yeah.
Right. If they can't get them into bookstores, why do you think you can?
Right.
Now, where I see a lot of local authors, what they want to do is they want to get it into the local bookstores.
Yes.
So they want to get it through so they do it on a consignment basis.
Sure.
And that will get it in the bookstore.
Yep.
But consignment's hard because they're not going to feature your book. They're not going to buy your book. It is consignment. They are not going to buy a stack of your books.
Right.
They're not going to give it a lot of play. They're not going to put it out on the front table or anything like that. They're going to shelve it on the shelf, and then all that's going to be visible of the book is the spine. So if your spine isn't like, you know, leaping out at people to buy it, I don't know. I think we have too many more options now I miss bookstores. I mean, seriously, my husband and I used to spend hours in bookstores checking out all the books and things like that. But that's not how we are now. Our world has changed. And so it's really hard to get into the bookstores. And then I see some of these people, they walk into the bookstore with their book and then they take a picture. No, your book is not in the bookstore. You know, quit cheating, you know?
The thing I would throw out there, this is, you know, and this, you know, I think this could go traditional or self, but I agree with you. The consignment thing is an option. If your dream was in a bookstore, my advice on that, my local bookstore, we have 3 in St. Louis that are local. And the one that I primarily shop through, they know me. Like, I mean, I spend some money in that store. So, but that's been with purpose, right? I mean, I have built that relationship with Holland, the owner, for years, because in my mind, I was going, there's going to be a point where there's going to be a book here, and I'm going to call her back and say, hey, Holland, can we work something out? So, but again, I'd have established myself as a client first, you know, or as someone who really buys books and was a constant, even through 2020. And she paid it forward to me opening after hours. You know, I was allowed to shop this whole 2020 the hour before they opened, because she said, she's like, you're part of what's keeping the lights on around this place. And I'm like, I know, ask my husband, look at these bookshelves.
And that's the way a lot of the local authors that do get into these local bookstores, they have created a relationship. Right. Again, it's the networking relationships that make things happen.
Yes.
And unless you're, you know, willing to invest in that kind of effort, yeah.
Eva says, bookstores are great, but I wholeheartedly agree that's not how to get seen. She's right. Mr. Vlandis, I've tried the bookstore like Barnes & Noble. They don't do self-published books. It's hard to get them in. I believe that. I keep dipping in and out. This is awesome. I can't wait to rewatch later. Thank you, Books by Adrian. He has a great Sunday live shows happening these days, so be sure and check him out. Mr. Vlandis, they take a percentage. So yes, I've heard that. Barnes & Noble asked me to put my book in their store, but only hardback. Why is that? I don't know the answer to that.
Right. Well, part of it is, well, it depends on what the physical size of your book is too. You know, they have certain sizes and
I didn't know that. Okay.
Things that they will, sizes and bindings that they will accept. And so they don't accept it. They won't accept any book without a spine printing. And some of the shorter books, like a lot of self-published books don't have spine printing because it's not physically able to do it. So they will not put those in a bookstore. Gotcha. And so there are some requirements to fit in with the Barnes & Noble or any of those bookstore specs.
Yeah.
So that may be just their requirement, you know, because they use those things as a filter too, you know, because if you don't have a hardback, you know, you haven't put a lot of money into it either. And so, you know, hardbacks are much more expensive and they know you've taken some effort. And so.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Eva. That makes me want to blush. Okay. Not sure if anyone has mentioned this yet. Greenleaf Publishing is very interesting middle ground publisher worth looking into. I'm not familiar with Greenleaf, so I'll have to do some more research. The author retains the rights and creative freedom while they help with the costs of editing and publishing. Oh, that's okay. So it's somewhat of a hybrid model then, I guess.
Right, and that's another route that people are going now because the publishers can't pay for. It's not like the old days, you know, where the publisher was, you know, doing the full ride, you know. Right. So now they're looking for authorpreneurs. Who are willing to put up money to defray some of those costs. So,
well, and if you're thinking traditional publishing out there, people, let me pop your bubble on that one. In 2020, most of the big publishers switched from doing any upfront payments until books are delivered and published. So it used to be you got a chunk right when you signed, and then you got paid on a, you know, and that's changed in 2020 when cash flows got tight. And then of course we went from 5 to 4, but that's a live cast for a different day. I have lots of
I know
lots of feelings on that. Daw Books is also accepting unaged manuscripts. That's interesting and good to know. Thank you. Don't take my word for it though. Look into it. I will do that. Adrian, I will. That's really interesting. Yes, Aphrodite's book is chunk. It is a big, I have it on my bookshelf.
Okay.
Daw Books is somehow linked to Penguin. I think it is, but it came up recently and is a long-established publisher. Yes, I have noticed this trend. Have you noticed this too? And I think it's with the hybrid thing happening, where the big boys are now doing imprints that are trying to get into that game a little bit. And so
I swallow them up. They just swallow them up as part of their universe.
I also kind of have, I worry about the day or let me ask you this. Do you worry about the day that traditional publishing figures out they cannot sell eBooks at $16, $15 a book and actually lower, you know what I'm saying? The moment they figure that out and become competitive, do you think that that'll be a game change or there will be some shifting in the market there?
Well, honestly, I don't know, because here's my thought is, I know, looking at myself as a book consumer, I'm not looking at the price. What I mentioned in the self-publishing to make money book is that books aren't cookies or toothpaste.
Right.
You know?
I love that. Yeah.
It's not. they're not going to be price comparison shopping.
Right.
So, for example, they're not going to say, "Oh, well, there's Barrett's book, and then there's this book. Oh, let's see, there's $2 difference. Yeah, I'm going to go with the cheaper book." No, people want to read a specific book.
Yes.
So I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue as.
Well, and here's the thing. For me, it's not that I don't buy the book, but I'll tell you this. I do not own one traditionally published ebook. Because if I'm going to pay $18 for it, it's going to sit on these shelves that Ricky keeps telling me to empty off around this place. So
right, I have a mix. You know
what I mean?
So on my Kindle, I have a mix of self-published and traditionally.
Okay. So it does happen, because I was convinced that I was like, everyone's going to think like I do and be like, you're not. I'm not. If I'm going to pay for it, I'm going to get the real deal. So Adrian said, this is good. I intend to self-publish, but Greenleaf is looking mighty attractive. I'll always report back when I know more. And then he says, I'll probably do a video on it eventually. So. Oh. What do you see, Heidi, for the future as far as the hybrid? What is attractive about the hybrid model for an author?
Well, I've had a couple of inquiries from authors who had been approached, or they approached some of these hybrid publishing companies that said, "Oh, well, we'll introduce your book to, some big name publisher."
Sure.
And they don't have to. Here's the thing with, I just don't think, I say fine. If you want to go hybrid and you want to spend the money on it, be very clear about who's going to do what. Because chances are they're not going to handle the marketing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of authors want to go traditional publishing, because they don't have the marketing pull that the traditional publishers do. Yet some of these hybrid models may not cover that marketing piece.
Yeah.
And so I would say get a lawyer first.
Yeah.
And find out who's doing what, because that's going to save a lot of the disappointment that will ensue if you are thinking something, because a lot of people, they think, "Oh, wow, I'm going to be hybrid of this imprint that's part of big name publisher, and then I'm going to be just like all the big authors out there." No. That is not going to happen. There's going to be some clear boundaries of, they're not going to help you that much, because you're only paying for part of it. They're still going to have to pay for the production and the editing and all of that. And that's the piece that they're probably going to concentrate on. But the marketing, and they will have distribution, because they do have connections with stores and things like that. But in terms of marketing, where they're going to push your book, is probably unlikely.
Well, and I'd even say, if anyone's thinking traditional publishing, the advice I was given a long time ago, two friends that have traditionally published, both said save 10% of any advance you get and set it aside for your marketing, because you're still, I don't care if you're a top lister, you're still doing a great chunk of your own marketing. So we're just crushing all the dreams today. So
I would rather have people understand the system than to get into it and then just have their dreams crushed, and then they've probably spent a lot of money on pre-publishing editing and that sort of thing. And we could talk about
this is a question that got emailed to me that's kind of interesting, and it hit my business brain, and so I wanted to ask you this because it's relevant to every writer. Is there anything writing related that you think is worth writing off in your taxes? So the question was more specific to editing, paying for an editor. Can that be written off? And that's an interesting question. I myself am not a CPA, so I can't get too deep, but
and neither am I.
I mean, so
you definitely have to have.
You track your expenses, for example, like for your publishing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've owned a business since 1999, so
right.
We're talking
itemizing is an easy for you. Yeah.
So yes, so I've done the P&Ls, the profit and loss statements every single year, and you have to show a profit for so many years, and then that sort of thing. But you have to have it as a business, not a hobby.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, like my husband spends a lot on his hobbies, but yet he can't write any of it off because he's not actively engaged in marketing and running the business.
Yeah.
So you really do need to have a serious chat with your CPA or your tax advisor or your tax preparer saying, hey, I'm spending this much money on preparing my book for editing or whatever you're doing with it. How can I write that off? Because what you'll probably have to do is have, I think it's Schedule C, which is for a business. And sometimes you have to, be set up officially as a business through a DBA, a doing business as, or an LLC or things like that. But these are questions that you really need to have a chat with first of all, I'd talk to your CPA, because chances are they know what your tax ramifications are going to be, and they know what the rules are. And then a lot of CPAs also know business attorneys, which can help you decide whether this, what business setup you might need, if any. So that's
great. That's a great connector to my next mailed in question about attorneys. Aphrodite Lee is up on the screen saying definitely get a lawyer. The question was, should I set up an LLC or an imprint before I publish so that everything runs through that, or should I just continue as an individual? What do you say to people on that front, or who are asking those kinds of questions?
Well, what I say to them is, first of all, again, are you doing it as a hobby or are you doing it as a legit business? Now, if you're doing it as a legit business, you're going to have to show your income. You're going to have to show your losses. You're going to have to show your income anyway on your taxes. Anything that you get from Amazon or whatever platform you're on, you're going to have to report it. It would be probably reported as miscellaneous income until you decide that, okay, this is a business and I'm going to run it as a business and I'm going to be taxed as a business. So again, you absolutely, I can't even answer that for anyone,
No, I agree. I definitely get a lawyer. This is where we put up a disclaimer, like, please speak to an attorney. Neither of us are attorneys, and a CPA. Neither of us are CPAs. But for yourself, do you, for when you're just talking to someone, do you say on an individual basis, or do you kind of blanket, talk to your CPA, talk to your attorney?
I just say talk to your CPA and your attorney.
Yeah.
There's so much involved in it, where the question of this comes in for a lot of the questions that I get is people who want to sell their books direct. They want to.
And they're handling the tax themselves.
Then you've got sales
tax. Oh yeah.
And that's a complete mess right now. Because in 2018, the Supreme Court case for Wayfair decided that all of the states can go after anyone to collect taxes. And I know this is for true, because when I was doing the promotional work and I sent it to an order to another state, even though my client was here, I don't know how this other state figured out that it was I don't know if they do shipping manifests or what the deal was, but I get a multi-page, must have been a 12-page form I had to fill out from this other state that said, are you doing business in this state and all this kind of stuff. And that case in 2018 made it possible. Now, the states are, everybody's looking for money. And this there's no national internet tax. I mean, now they could be more aggressive, and you do not want to be on the wrong end of that. So that's why I said first I'd see a CPA and then also an attorney, a business attorney who handles contracts and
Landis said 1099, I believe. Eva said, this is interesting. I went the LLC route, though I'm not yet published. I did it to separate things since I plan to do more than just publish my books with my LLC, though not publish others' books.
Right.
And other than cost, it's a pretty simple process in Illinois. She is just across the river from me. So she's a similar person as well. Right. Yeah, so that's what I wondered, because I know Aphrodite has an imprint and kind of has set herself up that way as well. So I didn't know how people kind of do that. Did they?
Well, the LLC offers some protections, legal protections for you as well. And so yes, it is definitely a conversation you need to have with an attorney before you make any decisions going forward, because there are media liabilities too. And we cannot even go down that road. It is such a big topic.
Yes.
But
even in I think it's the creativity book, towards the end, you discuss for nonfiction, especially when it's memoir. I think it was in that book where we talked about memoir or biography, how you can get into such trouble. And I mean, like legal, y'all like getting sued in your house.
Big trouble.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Big trouble.
Yeah. So yeah, Eva just said my house is safe, basically. So yes, that was smart. That was the way to do it. Okay, I'm gonna jump in for a few of these quick other questions. Let's see. What goals do you have for your personal brand?
For my personal brand, I definitely want to be seen as a go-to resource for self-publishing, and particularly through the Kindle Amazon universe, because it's the easiest for most people to get involved in. The others, I don't have enough experience or knowledge of those other platforms. But the Amazon Kindle universe, I certainly want to be the go-to resource for that, as well as a go-to resource for just things in general about the self-publishing business side.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm headed.
You're headed. Okay, cool. Colin Clark said, I love Colin's comments. This I did not know. I have only one nonfiction book on Amazon, and even though I'm in the UK, I have to fill out my US tax statement every year. I didn't think about that, but yeah, Amazon, so that makes sense. Showing off that international author status. Yes, he is, proudly. Okay, well, that kind of, I got an interesting question about someone who's getting ready to self-publish and they're considering Kindle Unlimited. Now, I just want to briefly touch on this, and I will tell everyone here, check out the Heidi Thorne Show. There are multiple videos. I've watched and commented on most of them about Kindle Unlimited. Something in your book shooketh me, which was, and I'll tell you, it changed my reading habits for your books. That if I download a book and I open it to read it, and I'm notorious for this, where I'll read the first chapter and then put a bookmark in and go do something else and then come back and read later, you don't get paid on everything after that. Is that true?
That is very true.
Okay. Help me make it make sense. Make it make sense to me. What's
okay? So for Kindle Unlimited, when you are when you've registered your title in KDP Select, which requires exclusivity on Amazon, they reward you with getting royalties for Kindle Unlimited reads. However, what you only get paid for are the pages read on the first opening of the book. So if a reader opens the book, they read the table of contents, they read, chapter 1, and then they close the book to read something else, you only get paid on those pages in chapter 1, which is stunning. And a lot of people say how unfair that is.
Yeah.
Because when you buy a book, when you out and out buy the Kindle ebook, you're buying the whole book.
Right.
So you're going to pay for the whole book. But for Kindle Unlimited, you're just paying for the KENP Kindle edition normalized pages. So that's the way they've done it. And I'm not sure of the theory behind that. I think it's basically because it would be a nightmare to monitor, because a lot of people will, they will do, they'll read one chapter and then they might not read it for another year, so how are we going to juggle all of those payments? Okay, well, did they get paid for that? Did they not get paid for this? So, and you only get paid on those reads within that period. So for example,
okay. See, because I'm notorious. I mean, I'm reading lots of things all the time, right? So I am notorious for downloading books. And then, for instance, Victoria Wren, I think some people know her here, but she recently did a book on, it's Kindle Unlimited. I just brought it down. I haven't opened it yet, though, because I was like, nope, only open it when you really read through it. Because I had no idea, no concept. I wish more unlimited readers knew that, because in my mind, I'd always told myself I'm helping self-published authors by doing Kindle Unlimited because I read so much that each page read pays them, but not so. Not so,
unless that you read the whole book. And it's been interesting to watch the stats on that over time. There are people who will download the book and they read the whole book.
Yeah, I will.
At one time. Yeah. And then, so I get paid for the royalties on that one whole book.
Wow.
So, but then, and those royalties are minuscule, it's fractions of a cent per page, so it's not a lot.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I think we have to understand is that this is the way the world is going.
Yeah, you did a podcast about this, and it is so true. Even cars are doing subscription service now. Volvo has a buy a car on subscription.
Right. Everything is subscription. Right. So it's not like the world or Amazon is trying to be mean to you. It's just that's the way we buy things now.
Yeah.
Software.
Yeah.
All these things. This is how we buy things now. And so I think if you're not ready for that, and you don't have to register your title in KDP Select. You can just say, I don't want any of those royalties. You either buy my book or you don't.
Yeah.
and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But the one thing that I know I've heard from other authors that are participating in it, and they know the situation. They're saying, well, this exposes my book, because a lot of the books on Kindle Unlimited are self-published too.
Sure.
This exposes me to another universe of readers that may not have found me otherwise.
Right.
So they take that into consideration by saying, well, it's just a lost leader, and that's the way it goes. But I understand that this is the way the world is going. And so I leave my books in Kindle Unlimited and say, oh, well.
Yeah. Aphrodite said, my goal, I would love to be a part of the movement that evaporates the stigma of self-publishing. What do you have to say about the stigma of self-publishing? There is sort of a weird, and I noticed it more on AuthorTube than I've noticed it anywhere else, where there's this weird, like, I'm traditional publishing, I'm and they have this sort of rancor towards each other. Like, so what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think part of it is that to get a traditional publishing deal is a big deal. It's a lot of, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a ton of work. And you've been anointed by a publishing house.
Yeah.
The big ones or the smaller ones, you've been anointed to be part of their universe. Yeah. So that takes a lot. You have to get an agent. It's a lot of work. So I think there's this badge of honor in response to that work that you have done.
Okay.
Self-publishing basically started out as vanity presses. And a vanity press is where I just say, okay, I want to have a book and I will pay someone to make this book for me.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't know if you were going to sell it or anything like that, but you wanted to have this object in your hand.
Yeah.
That said, so those were the vanity presses.
Okay.
But then maybe about 10, 20 years ago or so, within that time frame, the past couple decades, it started to be the way we did things, because there were people like me who wanted to self-publish because my book, because I'm using it to promote my business, would not be of interest to traditional publishing.
Right.
So I think it has less of a stigma than it used to, but there's a lot of people who just don't care what they self-publish. They don't, they don't really think about what they're doing. They don't create a quality product.
I've read a couple of those.
So that's where
people here today are that. But yes, I've read a few of those.
That's where the stigma comes in, is that there's a lot of bad actors, you know, and it's harder to get a bad actor through traditional publishing than it is through self-publishing. And so I think that stigma still remains, but it is less than it used to be. Yeah.
Okay. This was interesting, so I'm going to pop it up real quick. Colin said, highest earnings in any month, 13 pounds at Just Eva. It's in my own name, not Colin Clark. I think that's his nonfiction work.
Okay.
Aphrodite said, I see my pages read sometimes and cringe, LOL. Just Eva said, oh, I've seen this. The Courtney Project and Kennedy Fox, they're a romance author duo. They have done some videos on Kindle Unlimited for them. And I don't think that video was about the pages not reading the whole thing. It was about the per page what they were getting, and it was something ridiculous, like 0.0645.
Oh, yeah. It's a fraction,
Yeah. So unless you read the whole book when you first open it, but I still like having my book there because, again, I want my book read.
Exactly, and I think that's the reason you want it there, is because you do want the exposure. And for me, I know that's why I have it there, because I know that that's where a lot of my people are. My husband's a Kindle Unlimited reader, and so I think we're going to that model. And then there's the Audible model, and we haven't even dug into anything with audiobooks, which is a completely different subject.
Yeah.
But that's sort of a subscription model too. You pay so much per month, you get one book, and then you have to pay for them outside of the program.
Yeah.
If you want something more. And a lot of my books, because they are short, so a lot of people pay for them outside the Audible program. So
yeah. Eva said, yes, that's what I thought all self-publishing still was. I had only seen indie books at conventions in person. I assumed Vanity printed and sold to recoup costs. AuthorTube opened my eyes. Same. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know much about it either. So, I love this. This is so Adrian. I'm already reaching out to Greenleaf for an interview. This was in the last half hour. So I'm like,
oh, wow.
Every time I turn around, this guy is like running circles around me. I'm like, how have you done 9 things in the half hour I haven't moved? Okay. Colin says, interesting stuff. Let us know. Yes. Okay. I'm going to grab a couple more quick questions before we run out of time that I wanted to ask you. Okay, will you do any more of the author surveys again in the future? And how would some of these folks be able to participate in your survey, in your next survey?
Well, actually, I was going to be doing them every 2 years.
Okay.
So the next one would have been 2020.
Ooh.
Well, needless to say, 2020 was 2020. And I thought, people are not authors. I mean, my year was just weird. Like the first half of the year was on track with 2019, like within a few percentage points of 2019. And then it just dropped off a cliff for like the rest of the year. I can't even imagine, but then of course, because my books are on business and that sort of thing, and people were broke. They were sick. They were, so
not leaving home. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not going to take that. So I need to see, I don't think it was good to do a survey then, because I want to be able to compare, of course, being a stats person, something that's a comparable year, which would be 2016, 2018. So I'll probably do it in 2022.
2022. Okay, I will get info from you when you do that and share it so people can get involved.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be in the summer, fall of 2022.
Cool.
And I will be, sending out notices and all that kind of stuff. And of course, I'll mention it on the podcast and all of that. And then this last year, but in 2020, and of course, some of these things, like I brought out the Networking for Authors book.
Yes.
Like the week the pandemic hit. I'm like, seriously, really? Yeah. But anyway, so
well, that's a very what's the word? Over the top launch plan.
Exactly. So, and something else I had started before the pandemic was going on was something called the Book Discovery Survey. And this was done in about the early spring of 2020. I got about 500 readers participating in that. And I have that also on my YouTube channel, the results of that. And just a quick note, that is that the biggest influence of what people read is friends and family.
Word of mouth. So that is true. Word of mouth is the old standby.
Right. I mean, if you're looking at social media, podcasts, blogs, they didn't even really rate. Book clubs. I mean, like it was just really, really interesting. And I don't know if I'm probably not going to do that one every 2 years. That one's probably going to be a little bit longer time horizon, like maybe 2024. Wow. And I'll keep you in the loop on all of that.
Aphrodite said, my Audible book for Encounters, which is under her Minx Kenosha, is done well, but ACX is a pain.
Oh, the interface is awful.
Okay. Mr. Blandis said, what do you think of cosplaying one of your characters? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? This is a fantasy question. I'll hop in here. That's a great idea. So get on that. Anything you can do to immerse a reader into the world. If they've enjoyed your book, at the end of your book, you should have go review, which is going to be my last question because I don't think we talked about it.
Okay.
At the end of the book, you need to have a call to action for them to go and review your book. And below that call to action, you should have some kind of a link to wherever you're doing this cosplay so that they can continue to be immersed in your world. Whatever you've got, throw it at them there. I'll sweep through these quickly. Bethany, I've been in and out. Let's see. As a con shopper, depends on the cosplay. Okay. Oh, this is good. Heidi, you've lit a fire under me. Yeah, this is banana. Oh, thank you, Adrian. But seriously, yours are much more professional than mine. I have done it. I dressed up as a character in Livestream as well as my book launch. We could all be part 2 of this one. Oh, look at the time. In fact, my book launch was done. The setting of the book. Yeah, she did a full cosplay for her launch, which was brilliant.
Right, and she talked about her launch and stuff on the show. So definitely go see that.
Check it out. Check it out. But so, okay, I cannot believe I forgot this question. Why are reviews so important to published authors?
Why are reviews important to published authors or important in general?
Let's do both. Do both.
Okay. I think, we are in a review-centric environment. So on Amazon, we look for 5-star, but then don't worry about a 4-star review because the 4-star reviews are probably more genuine. 5-star reviews are great and we can bathe in them all day long.
Yes.
But 4-star reviews, Amazon considers those good too, because otherwise, why would they call their store the Amazon 4-star store?
Oh, I never even noticed that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they're physical stores.
Yeah,
so,
we just in St. Louis. It just opened.
Right, and so they think like a 4 or 5-star rating. So if you get 4-star ratings, don't worry about. I mean, it's a good rating. Okay, yeah. The 3, 4, and 5-star ratings are good ones.
Yeah.
and a lot of them have good information about it. I mean, we've all gotten bad reviews and good reviews, and some of the 1-star reviews are people who shouldn't have been reading it anyway, that sort of thing. And it's really difficult to get reviews. It is very difficult.
Yeah.
However, I don't like gamed reviews.
Okay.
Meaning, I don't want to tell people, oh, go. I will tell people to go and review the book. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I am not going to like make them do it. You know, because I want genuine reviews. I want a genuine customer review. So I don't give out free copies just so that people can give a review. So reviews are important, but I think authors put too much importance on them. Because if I encounter an author and I have a relationship with this author and I see they have a book on Amazon and I want to buy it because it's something I want to read, do you think I'm going to look at the reviews? No. I'm probably going to say, well, I'm going to buy it because I like you and I like your work and I want to see, I want to see what you're doing. I'm not going to, and I will give honest reviews. I think, I don't know what my rank is on Amazon, but I really give constructive reviews. And so I watch my reviews of my reviewer profile too.
Do you really?
Right. See how many helpful.
Yeah.
And, and Eva's right. I want to see why someone didn't like it.
Interesting.
Is it a problem with my marketing? Am I just not pitching it correctly or to the correct person? Or did I do something I can improve on either the next version or maybe there's just something? And yes, I love all my reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them. I really...
the thing that's interesting about that is the one thing the editor I'm working with before I go out and query, and anyway, one of the things she advised me, and she had worked at a Big Five before she moved back to Missouri to take care of an elderly parent. But anyway, one of the things she told me, she goes, when you sell this book and when it goes out into the world, she goes, the advice I would have told you if I were your acquiring editor is whatever you do, don't read the reviews.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. And I said, really? I said, because I think I want to grow from that. And she said, writers don't belong in readers' spaces.
Ah. Okay.
And that was so interesting. But when I asked her and I pressed her about that, and she was majority nonfiction. So she now is at a house here in the Midwest and does nonfiction. She said in nonfiction, it's different. That in nonfiction, you do want to be in those reader spaces because you're building a different kind of rapport than the author on high who comes down in the review and is like, wait a minute, you didn't like my book? Like,
right. I don't usually reply to, I have occasionally, if it's maybe a friend or somebody who's been really nice to me, I might reply, but I usually don't reply to the reviews either because I just, I want it to look like an Amazon product because, and here's the other, I got to say this about reviews before we go.
Please.
Not many people review books. I think Aphrodite mentioned that. It is very hard to get reviews. I took a course on fulfillment by Amazon just to see how that world works. And they said that something like maybe 1 to 5% of people who buy on Amazon actually leave a review.
Wow. Seriously, that's small?
That's small. It's only like a few percentage. And I think it was like 8% or something like that. It's maybe 10 at the outside, depending on the product. But not a lot of people leave reviews.
Well, and here's the thing. I wonder about this. Is the review, because my husband works in sales, and they've in 2020 moved away from quota to reviews of clients. And what's interesting about that is, as I said, I told him, I said, that worries me. And he said, why? I'm great with customers. I said, because the people who leave reviews are either really happy or they're really upset. There's never like I kind of liked it, or you were okay. Like,
right. There's no middle ground.
Right.
If people are either in love with you or it's the love-hate. Like,
yes.
So that's why I just leave them. And if I get a review, great. If I don't, I'm not going to. I mean, because you have to remember too, like my stuff is pretty niche. You know, so I'm not expecting a whole wave of people. And since self-publishing people, we sell very few copies. And we haven't even talked about that.
I know. I feel like we'd had enough dark cloud over it. I was like, that was one of our topics to ask. I thought, I'm going to let them read the book.
Yeah, we'll let them read the book on that.
It's in the book. All right. I'm going to get these last. Let's see. Don't leave Amazon. All my photos make us forever. Oh, that's. I got a recent review where the reader just was not into my book and said, but they gave it 4 stars because they said it was written well and not just for them. And I'd be really happy with that.
I'd be happy with any constructive review.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So in your last minute, is there anything you'd like to say? This is your moment to plug away. HEIDITHORNE.com for sure. It's scrolling.
I would say that, first of all, thank you, Barrett.
Oh, no, thank you for doing this. This was fun.
Such a sweetheart, and you've been so supportive, and you're so much fun. And so thank you for having me today. And it's nice to see all of you in the chat here, or through the comments. And thank you very much. And my YouTube channel, just if you want to follow me there or on Instagram.
Right. Yes. Check out the HEIDI Thorne Show. You will not be disappointed.
Right. If you're into podcasts or things like that. But I have more traction with the YouTube channel. And we haven't even talked about that because watching the analytics on YouTube channels.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, my Lord. I get a lot of people through my blog, watch my videos on my blog.
Well, I want to do this again with you. I maybe in a month or two, we'll circle back because I would like to talk about YouTube analytics. I'd like to talk about how YouTube has helped your author platform. I do want to, we didn't even really get into a deep dive on the, how to build your fan base stuff.
Oh, right. I mean, there's just this, it's such an expansive subject. And I think this is the mistake that a lot of authors think is that self-publishing is easy and that it's just a done deal, because you can get your book up on Amazon in 2 days or whatever. And the backstory of self-publishing is massive. So,
huge. Yeah. Ton of work.
Yeah.
All right. You're getting a lot of thank yous. This was great. Thank you. I already followed you, Heidi.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you, and stay healthy and well, as I always say, and we will see you soon. Take care, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.